Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Friday. All of our guests today, including Thomas Drance from The Athletic, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Don't miss the game because your car needs servicing. Langley Chrysler will pick up, service, and drop off your car so you don't have to miss the action. Valet service only at langleychrysler.com. Just before we bring in Thomas, an update on the World Cup draw. Ryan, if there's anything else
we now know where Canada is.
We do.
Oh,
okay.
What do we got?
So Canada is going to be into Group F.
Okay, that's with Belgium, Morocco, and...
No, sorry, I'm wrong on that. Group H.
Group H, okay.
No, Group F. Yeah, sorry.
Group F.
I'm getting these mixed messages here, but it is Group F.
It's nice to know you're on the ball. Who's in Group F?
Belgium.
Yeah.
Morocco and Croatia.
Yes, sir.
Belgium. Say that again.
Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia.
Do you know
Belgium has been a world power for a significant amount of time, dropped to number 2 in the rankings.
Croatia is always
recently.
tough.
Yeah.
Croatia is always a tough match at the World Cup.
It didn't matter where they ended up. They were going to be up against at least one world powerhouse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better option than H with Portugal and Uruguay, although Uruguay, their side is older. Korea is in there as well. So, again, Canada in Group F with Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. We go back to 1986, and they had a tough go-around there.
Yep.
Of course, 0 goals, 0 wins in their 3 games. They finished 24th out of 24 sides there. And it was France, it was the then Soviet Union, and Hungary.
Do we know anything about Morocco?
Yeah, it's a country.
It's a beautiful.
Yeah.
It wasn't Humphrey Bogart in a movie there.
Sure. You talking about Casablanca?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was in Morocco.
Okay, but anyways.
And I don't know what that has to do with soccer. I remember the cartoon Morocco Mole.
No, I don't remember that.
You had an overcoat.
I just thought of Humphrey Bogart for some Morocco. Anyways.
He won't be in the Moroccan lineup.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. Have we got Thomas Drance?
In 1 second.
Please?
In 1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
All right. So, again, Canada in with Belgium, Morocco, and Croatia. And the event, World Cup, starts in November, I believe November 21st, goes deep into December,
Yep.
and for obvious reasons, because of the weather situation in Qatar, you don't want to be playing in July and August. And this is the first time the World Cup has been played away from the summer months, and the first time it's been in the Middle East. Did you see any pictures of Doha, Qatar? I don't know if we have any shots of it.
It's a beautiful place. Ryan, do you have any?
Well, the reason I bring this up is because a lot of the networks last night, TSN, Sportsnet, they were showing pictures from there.
Yeah.
And that city it looks like something out of the Jetsons.
Oh.
If you see a cityscape, maybe we could show that later. It's just amazing to look at, and obviously brand new. It seems like money isn't an object at all, but the cityscape there is just breathtaking. We got Thomas?
Thomas?
Thomas Drance joins us from The Athletic. Canucks host Vegas on Sunday. They're in Vegas on Wednesday. The Canucks have lost 8 of 11. Thomas, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Coming at you from a Portland Courtyard Marriott. Another day, another Marriott. So, nice to be with you, gentlemen.
And where are you, Thomas? You got cut off there at the beginning. You're in the Marriott, but where?
Portland, excuse me.
Okay. All right.
Driving down to California.
Do you have any thoughts on where Canada ended up in the World Cup draw? Belgium, Morocco, Croatia, Group F. I'm putting you on the spot here.
No worries. I think Belgium and Croatia are international powerhouses whose best years are behind them. Bring on the group. Like, people are rooting for a soft group. You're going to have to beat someone good at some point anyway. It's the World Cup.
Yep.
You know, there's no soft group. I'd rather see Canada go toe-to-toe valiantly against great teams as opposed to be expected to win against whomever, some sort of also-ran team. Like Canada versus some old men powerhouses of Europe. Like, that sounds great. Canada, Belgium to open the World Cup tournament. Like, give it to me, and give it to me at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of respect for Canada out there. Sky Sports in England came up with a worst-case scenario for England, and as far as what group they would end up in,
Competition
and
was.
Canada was in that group.
Wow.
So there's some respect there for the Canadians.
There should be.
Yeah,
There should be. They're at the top of CONCACAF, right? I mean, they bested Mexico and the United States on home soil and tied them on the road. Like, this is a Canadian team that did much of their winning too in the latter stages of the group without Alphonso Davies, who's their best player and an absolute world-class talent. This Canadian team can make noise. I'm excited to see it. And I'm not worried about the group. I know there's some disappointment that they didn't draw some cakewalk group, but I think that's great. Like, Team Canada up against Kevin De Bruyne and Luka Modric, like, give that to me. That sounds fun as anything.
Yeah, and like you say, it's extremely difficult to avoid a country that either isn't a world power or has been a world power recently. That just wasn't going to happen. So Belgium, Morocco, Croatia, it is. Meanwhile, Thomas, hockey, the Canucks. Can they use fatigue as an excuse? We heard a lot about 5 games in 8 nights the other night. Can they use fatigue as an excuse?
I don't think you can use it as an excuse when your playoff life is on the line, but you do have to use it from our perspective as context to explain a performance, right? I think we have to account for it. And sometimes when you ask a player like a Thatcher Demko about fatigue, right, they'll say, that's for you guys. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It is. It's context for us to understand, but I don't think it's an excuse that the team can use. Just like injuries, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I always want to know if a guy is spending 2 hours on the table before I carve them for their performance, just because I don't want to be carving an injured guy. But oftentimes when I try and pick at that with players, like, just off the record, I'm just trying to figure out if, there's something there that I should be mindful of before I crush you. They'll always tell me if I'm in the lineup, it's fair game. If I'm in the lineup, I'm accountable for my performance, period. If I'm good enough to go, I'm good enough to help this team win or not, and that's for you to decide. And so I think the fatigue thing is in a similar vein. It's for us to account for as context. It's not an excuse that the team can use. And I think when you look through, some of their performances of late, I don't see a lack of effort. I'm not looking at that St. Louis game and saying I think they laid an egg. I'm looking at a team that I don't think they didn't bring enough urgency until the last 5 minutes of the game for me. They didn't pay a stiff enough price at the net front all game long. And I thought they were immature in the way that they went about holding a pair of leads in that game. And those are sort of repetitive issues, things we've said about this team all season. And I think speak to, some of the construction issues that are now at the forefront of this team's struggles, right? Their bottom 6 isn't good enough. Luke Schenn has been a great story and an awesome player for this team. He's been a warrior, period, for the Canucks. But how far can you go when Luke Schenn is in your top 4? I mean, that's not ideal for him. It's not ideal for them. There's significant work that needs to be done on this back end. There's significant work that needs to be done up front. And it's not just tweaks around the middle, gentlemen. Like, I also don't think this team has enough elite talent. And so I do think you're seeing that manifest itself at the worst possible time, but also, the team performed well above, in my opinion, their level to put themselves in a position to play some of these meaningful games. And the fact that they've been found wanting with chips down, to me, that's, yeah, sure, we can criticize them, but you also have to give them credit for salvaging their season to the point that they even give us a chance to be disappointed. Okay,
one more from me, Thomas, before Rick takes over here. But you mentioned the word immature, and you used that word in your story recently after the second St. Louis game. What did you mean by the immature approach of the Canucks?
Well, I just felt like they take the lead against St. Louis, and then in the second period, the Blues just completely took over the game, and they weren't able to match it. I know that the goal that they ended up scoring, I think it was credited to Nick Leddy. That was sort of a fortunate bounce, in my opinion, a point shot goal directed off a Canuck player. I mean, those happen. But when I think about the first 10, 11 minutes of the second period, the Blues just completely took over that game. They were inevitable. And even though the Canucks kind of got 2 goals against the grain, great play by Brad Richardson to chase on, and then the Pettersson sort of seagull and finish, which was just fantastic. You know, what shots were 12-1 for the Blues in that frame with the game. Like, when it came down to it, when the heat was on, the Blues were the team generating everything. And the Canucks were pretty fortunate to get a lead. And then, you know, you have that giveaway on the power play. I just didn't feel like they managed the game well enough. You have a sort of an undisciplined penalty that leads to the game winner. It was just one of those performances where, for me, the Canucks couldn't match the polish and professionalism that the Blues were able to bring to the rink at Rogers Arena on Wednesday night.
Thomas, you and I talked about this last week, the future of Boudreau, and we don't know if it's a slam dunk that they're going to bring him back. I don't got any inkling or feeling, Thomas, it's a slam dunk. Your thoughts on is he going to come back or not?
You know, there's clearly been some breadcrumbs left, right, in terms of some of the commentary that management has had, not just the tepid endorsement following the trade deadline by Patrick Alvin on Sportsnet 650, but also some of the commentary on practice habits, structure, you know, some of the comments that have been made about how this team has performed by Alvin and Jim Rutherford publicly over the course of the past 6 weeks, I think have given us grounds to wonder, certainly. All of that said, gentlemen, I mean, what else can you ask from a coach?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just pausing in case you lost me there. But I mean, what else can you ask for a coach here? He has turned this team around. He has far exceeded my expectations, and I think any reasonable expectations for what could be accomplished with this roster. You know, the impact has been positive on both sides of the special teams. You know, there's still issues with this team. And I guess there's lingering questions about whether or not Boudreau is, you know, this management group's guy, as it were. But I mean, he's won with this roster. I didn't think anyone could win with this roster. I think that's a remarkable achievement. And, you know, I certainly think at the very least, you got to say he's earned a right to see what he can accomplish over a full year with this group, right? Don't you think? Like, don't you think next season you want to see what he can do with a training camp and a full season with this roster? I mean, I think he's earned at least that. And then, gentlemen, I'll mention one more thing. This organization repeatedly has messed up in terms of aligning their long-term interests with the incentive of key leadership or key people in club leadership. And I mean Jim Benning and Travis Green over recent years. You know, I think about the way that they managed the roster following, you know, when they were clearly eliminated. The playoffs had already begun in 2021. And Travis Green, without a contract, is scraping for every single point he can get. And the team moves from, you know, possibly 5th in the draft order to 9th for no reason. It's like, extend the man 3 weeks earlier and proceed with your organization's best interests in mind. Right before the JT Miller trade happened, you know, Jim Benning was entering his last cycle. What was the popular reaction locally after that trade? This is a save your job trade. And whether or not it was, it's unfair to put your managers in a position where they'd even have to think like that for a second. Boudreau, I mean, for me, I think Boudreau's done enough, and I'd love to see the club extend him prior to the end of the season. You know, a 2-year extension, that's 3 years after this one. You give that to him now, and then you say, hey, and by the way, let's look ahead. Like, we want to see Jack Rathbone play. We want to see Will Lockwood get a ton of minutes. We want to see Vasily Podkolzin in the top 6 on the power play. Like, look ahead for once. And part of that for me would be keeping Boudreau, and not just keeping him, gentlemen, but actively keeping him, extend him before the end of the year.
And getting to know those young players. When do you think that's going to happen, Thomas? I mean, you look at the standings. The playoffs aren't going to happen. When do you think that's going to happen? When will we see Rathbone? Brady Keeper has been practicing with the team as well.
Love to see Brady Keeper practicing with the team. If this kid gets into the lineup, by the way, everyone is going to love him. Just absolutely tough as nails, gentlemen. Throwback. Brady Keeper is a good one. Like, good human being, good player. He'd be, you know, if you are able to put him and Luke Shen into the same lineup, this Canucks team is going to look very differently in terms of what we think about how, you know, their toughness, their team level toughness. You know, as for the kids, I guess you give these 2 Vegas Golden Knights games. You know, you see what they do over the course of the next week. You've got the Golden Knights twice, the Arizona Coyotes on the second leg of a back-to-back. Thereafter, I think the kids have to come up. And by the way, how often were we talking about these 3 Golden Knights games being, super high leverage for the Canucks? And now, not only are the Golden Knights on the outside looking in of the playoff picture, right? But if they win in Seattle tonight, which I'd say they probably will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they do, then even if Vancouver were to sweep those 3 games, they'd be 1 point back of Vegas.
Yeah, but Dallas is the one you really got to be worried about.
No, I know. So even though you're not really chasing Vegas, in the event that Vegas wins tonight, you could be looking at those 3 games as being an opportunity to get just 1 point back of Vegas, and that would require a sweep to do. I mean, Vancouver's frankly fallen pretty far out of the playoff battle at this point.
Thomas, enjoy the Marriott. Thanks for this.
Thanks, boys. Be well.